Hi guys, welcome to History of Mr. Daniels. My name's Mr. Daniels. Today we're going to look at how to structure a Peel paragraph. So, one of the biggest reasons that students lose marks in history isn't because they don't know the knowledge. It's because their ideas are unclear, their facts aren't explained, and the paragraphs tend to drift. People tend to write as much information down as they can. They sort of info dump, as it were, and they try to get as much onto the paper as they can possibly. But there's no real structure to how they're actually writing their answers. So that's why I like to teach Peel paragraphs or PEE paragraphs. Depending on which school you're in, you might have a slightly different way of looking at it. This gives you a clear structure to avoid just info dumping and actually structuring your answers to get the marks that the examiner's looking for. So, what is Peel? Well, the P stands for point, evidence, explain, and link back to the question. The idea is that one paragraph equals one idea that you're trying to answer, and you can apply this to multiple different types of questions. If there's a 4-mark question where it's one paragraph, it works with that. If there's an 8-mark question where it's 2 paragraphs, or you have extended writing, however many paragraphs there are, you can structure that paragraph around this Peel structure. So in practice, let's have a look at this question. Explain why William won the Battle of Hastings for 8 marks. For this, we'd be aiming for 2 Peel paragraphs and a mini conclusion. So, what is your point? In this, you're answering the question and you tell your argument. You're looking for one clear idea. So, if we're answering this question, why did William win the Battle of Hastings? You could say, one reason William won the Battle of Hastings was because he had better trained soldiers. It states your argument. It's not a background, it's not a story, this is your direct answer to the question. William won because he had better trained soldiers. We then need to back that up with some evidence. This is where you add in specific facts. You add in your own knowledge, you add in some detail that back up the point you're trying to make. William had many Norman knights trained to fight on horseback. Then it's your explanation. This is your key historical skill. You explain, why does that actually prove your point? How does it affect the outcome? Why does the fact that William had many Norman knights trained to fight on horseback actually matter? Well, the cavalry made William's army more flexible in battle. This is where the most of your marks will be earned. It's that explanation. And you can link it back to the question. Therefore, better trained soldiers helped William to win the Battle of Hastings. It's a nice close to your paragraph, sort of treat the L as a mini conclusion to each paragraph. And here's the thing, a lot of my students try to overthink it. They think they need to write more than they actually need to, but you can get away with writing 4 sentences if you follow this structure. This answer we've built together is 4 sentences. One reason William won the Battle of Hastings was because he had better trained soldiers. This is the point that you're trying to make. One reason William won the Battle of Hastings was because he had better trained soldiers. That's one sentence. If we look at the evidence, William had many Norman knights trained to fight on horseback. Explain, well, this gave William's army more flexibility than Harold's. And link it back to the question. Therefore, better trained soldiers helped William to win the Battle of Hastings. It can be as simple as that. You can, of course, develop it, so you don't have to just stick to 4 sentences. If you have a bit more time, if you want to get a bit more knowledge in there, you can develop the answer. A slightly more developed version could be, one reason William won the Battle of Hastings was because he had better trained soldiers. William had many experienced Norman knights who were more trained to fight on horseback, and this meant his army was more flexible in battle because cavalry could charge, retreat, and attack again, making it harder for Harold's infantry to defend. Therefore, William's better trained soldiers were a key reason why he won the Battle of Hastings. So using the same sort of structure here, the point has remained exactly the same. One reason William won the Battle of Hastings was because he had better trained soldiers. That point sentence has stayed exactly the same. And to an extent, our evidence has remained the same as well. William had many experienced Norman knights who were trained to fight on horseback. When I said earlier about the explanation being the key bit, this is where that comes into play a little bit. If you want to develop your answers, it's best to do it in the explanation part. So this meant his army was more flexible in battle because the cavalry could charge, retreat, and attack again, making it harder for Harold's infantry to defend. Adding key bits of evidence, of explanation that back up your evidence there. And again, your link back to the question is pretty much the same as before. Therefore, William's better trained soldiers were a key reason why he won the Battle of Hastings. Most students describe what happened, but to get the most amount of marks possible and reaching your full potential, you need to explain why it mattered. If your paragraph has more explanation than evidence, you're usually on the right track because that is where you earn your marks, in that explanation. Here is the point. Here's an example of the point. Here is why that point matters. So remember, when you're stuck in an exam and you can't think about what you want to get onto the page, just follow this simple 4-step strategy. Remember peel. Remember the orange peel. Point, evidence, explain, link. Thank you for listening to this lesson, and for more exam tips, revision guides and strategies, please do follow me on YouTube, Instagram and TikTok. I'm History of Mr. Daniels across all of those. And in this lesson, I'm going to attach a free PDF download of a Peel paragraph tracker. So that will be available in my Google Drive. You can print it out, use it for revision. You can plan out exam answers and paragraph answers with that. And it's a nice little resource bank that we're building on the website as well. Thank you for listening, class, and I'll see you next time.